Hi, I'm Robin Boyce for City Corner. Come on back and join us because we're going to talk about the evolution of journalism. Hi, I'm Robin Boyce for City Corner. Thank you for joining us. We're back with this Zoom call in City Corner. This is all new to me, y'all. So stick with me. But I've got a great crew of people on board, colleagues that I have known over the years, many, many years, new people that I've just met, and some really, really good conversation about how journalism has really changed. With me on this wonderful City Corner Zoom call is Dr. Tamara Buck, who's department chair for mass communications at Southeast Missouri State University. How you doing, Dr. Buck?
How you doing?
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Also, Miss Benita Cornute, former reporter. You go, girl. Hey.
Hello.
For KTVI Fox 2 News. So glad to have you here, my sister.
Thank you.
And Ms. Cameron Rhodes, who is co-founder. I'm just going to call it co-founder. Okay. Co-founder of Real STL News, a real innovative guerrilla style journalistic group that I just love the history and how you all got started, but you all are out there doing it. Cameron, thanks for joining us. Mr. Vinton Bland, who is Mr. Vinton Blandon. Sorry about that, Vinton.
It's all good. Thank you.
Sorry about that, baby. Mr. Vinton Blandon, who is now communications director for the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Missouri, the DOJ.
DOJ.
That smooth move, y'all.
It looks smooth, all right.
He made a good move from KMOV, and Mr. Sylvester Brown Jr., my man, author, activist, and Sweet Potato Project. How's that going, Sylvester?
That's kind of on hold right now.
Kind of on hold.
That's on hold right now. Yeah, I'm trying to put it under the umbrella of a larger organization.
Okay.
I'm finding that my meager skills have been kind of tapped out, so.
You have been busy. That's what's going on, brother.
It's been an interesting ride.
We get to a point where it's a whole lot and we go, okay, I need an assistant or I need somebody over here to handle this because I cannot do it all. That's what's going on.
I need a lot of money.
What's going on. Well, we're here today to talk about the evolution of journalism. And things have changed over the years. I mean, how's everybody been doing in this COVID situation?
Doing better now.
The best we can.
The best we can. Well, I'm going to start with Miss Benita. Tell me a little bit of your background.
Oh my goodness.
How you came to St. Louis, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, well, I started in public broadcasting in Madison, Wisconsin after graduating from the university. Worked there for a number of years at the radio and television station after graduating. And then someone who worked at Channel 9 here in St. Louis, a producer, brought me down here to host and produce Postscript.
That's right.
And a couple of other programs that they were doing, mainly the legislative wrap-up that we did every week. And then from Channel 9, I went over to Channel 2 to produce and host a weekly magazine show called Turnabout.
That's right.
And I loved and lived Turnabout for so long. It was so much a part of me. I think the goal was perhaps to maybe see it die, and they didn't know that I was going to come in and just keep plugging away until it stood on its own and lasted a good 10 years. So I'm quite pleased with the fact that Turnabout survived. From Turnabout, I started working in news and ended up doing general assignment reporting, from there to consumer reporting and community affairs reporting. So I've done a little bit of everything, and a total of about 38 years in the business.
Okay, you are a pro that really knows what has gone, and I'm sure you've seen a lot in the newsroom. I know you've seen a lot in the newsroom. All right then, Mr. Vinton Blandon, give us your background. I thought the nicest thing I read about you is that you, when you were a baby, a kid, you used to see folks in your neighborhood covering the news, and that kind of got you interested in journalism?
Yeah, that's the big jumping point. It was 1993 in Chicago, Illinois. I grew up on the west side, Hamlin and Lake Garfield Park area, for those who are familiar with Chi-Town. That was probably in 1992, actually. So unfortunately, 5 people were shot dead in my neighborhood. So a news reporter came up to the door. hey, mom and dad home? I said, yeah, my mom and daddy home. Let me go get them. Went to get them. Next thing you know, I probably weaseled through their legs and went outside. I'm fascinated by the band with the big old stick hanging out on the top with the dish. I look into that news truck from WMAQ NBC5 Chicago and started being fascinated about those small little TVs.
Yes.
I thought there were about 50 TVs in a live truck. Fast forward 10 years or whatever, and I realized, oh, there were only 2 or 3 and they never worked. But that kind of got me started. So I took a tour of an NBC station in South Carolina when I moved there a year later.
Okay.
And from that day, February 1st, 1993, I have been in the newsroom from mascot to production assistant to reporter to anchor to assignment editor to reporter. Take me from markets, I'll count Chicago to Greenville, South Carolina, to Charleston, South Carolina, Baltimore, DC, Charlottesville, Virginia, Huntsville, Alabama, Birmingham.
People don't understand that when we move around like that, you know what I mean? We're gaining so much experience from these different markets. It makes a difference.
Absolutely.
It makes a difference. So you landed here in St. Louis at KMOV, and I miss you on KMOV so much. I really do. I love your reporting and the coverage that you did, and we'll talk about a little bit about that coverage and how you do that. Dr. Buck, tell us about yourself, lady.
All right. Well, I am actually a native of Southeast Missouri. I'm from Charleston, Missouri, and was exposed to education at Mizzou and here at Southeast Missouri State, SEMO. I ultimately graduated from SEMO with a degree in journalism. I was a professional reporter at a small regional newspaper for 5 years, covering education news, which was really hot in the mid-90s.
Yes.
Covered a lot of education news. I did a small stint in PR as a PR director in the nonprofit world, hated that and moved into education.
Okay. Okay.
So since 2001, I have been teaching journalism here at Southeast, and that's 19 years. I am advising the student newspaper. I was the coordinator for the multimedia journalism program. And now I am department chair as of August 1st of this wonderful accredited program. So
that's awesome. Congratulations on that move up, and congratulations to you, Vinton, for making that really smooth move from KMOV, considering the news that came out this week. Wow. COVID is affecting everything and everybody, and it's all about the dollars right now. So folks are being affected. Sylvester, background.
Born and raised in St. Louis.
Wise one.
Huh?
The wise one.
Born and raised in St. Louis. I was working at Laclede Gas Company in the street department. I was going to St. Louis Community College. Decided to start a newspaper in 1987 called Take 5 Magazine.
That's it.
Yeah, my idea was to have a Black Riverfront Times, like Mother Jones kind of newspaper.
And it was good.
Yeah, well, thank you. Brought on some great people. We wound up winning awards. I won like 30 journalism awards with the magazine. Ended it in 2003. Same time that Greg Freeman passed away. And then I applied for the job as a columnist for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Was hired there in 2003. Worked there from 2003 to 2009. After leaving there, I went to work for Tavis Smiley. He had his own book company. So I worked on several books by Tavis and Cornel West and Tom Burrell. Did that. And then in 2012, I started a nonprofit called the Sweet Potato Project, which basically taught kids entrepreneurial skills through agriculture. Just ended that, just put that on hold this year. Recently got the 2020 Deaconess Foundation Fellowship for 1 year at the St. Louis American to write about COVID-related, how COVID is impacting the Black community. Just finished a novel, screenplay, so.
You're busy, and you're busy. You're still busy, but your career, everybody's career evolution has been absolutely phenomenal. Cameron.
Hey. All right.
So real STL news. I tell you, you all really came on the scene and kind of like, bam. You know what I mean? I appreciate what you're doing. Tell us, how did real STL news come about?
All right, got you. First off, before I even get started on that, I want to say thanks for inviting me on this show. For starters, I want to thank everybody that's on this call with me because popular contrary belief, none of us actually wanted to be journalists, period. We had zero interest in being journalists, period. And as we started Real STL News, we're starting to see that you guys play a very, very important role in media and having a voice in our community. So I want to thank everybody who came before me/us prior to getting started. All right, so our spiel is pretty simple. We originated in 2014 out in Ferguson. A lot of us met during the Mike Brown situation, the killing of Mike Brown. At that point in time, we weren't any type of organization or anything like that whatsoever. Mainstream stopped covering the protests as years continued, but a lot of the people who went out there, the activists, the protest community, popular contrary belief, they were still active in some type of shape, form, or faction throughout the city, whether it was providing food for the unhoused, mentoring, and things of that nature. Some of us even put together like search and rescue teams when people went missing. I was actually a part of one of the missions when we went looking for a young lady named Hope Mason, roughly around, if I'm not mistaken, April of 2017. We reached out to mainstream organizations to try to get coverage for it. We couldn't get anybody to come out. At the time, Dotson was a police chief. We reached out to the police department to try to get, help as we were searching throughout the neighborhoods because it was nighttime, it was cold. We had, guns, we had everything because we were really looking for this young lady going in vacant houses and things of that nature. So we were just using our personal profile pages on Facebook to spread the word and spread the awareness about it. She was found a day later. She was unharmed at that point in time. Her name was Hope Mason. You guys can pull it up. I think Fox ran a story on it, if I'm not mistaken, and others ran stories on it.
Great.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We're going to take a break for a minute. Really good
Okay.
stuff. We're going to come back to you first, and then we're going to get into some other things.
Okay.
Robin Boyce, stick with us on City Corner. We'll be right back.
Operation Wonder Park is a go!
There's nothing more powerful than imagination. But don't just imagine. Use STEM to change the world.
Who's with me?
Oh, it's gonna hurt tomorrow.
If she can STEM, so can you. Find out more at She Can STEM.
Here's your check.
Oh, you got it. Since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home just in case. Why would you do that?
Probably okay isn't okay. Call a cab, a car, or a friend.
Good choice.
Selfie. Nailed it.
There's so many reasons to love St. Louis, you can't pick just one. From the arts, architecture, and culture. An all-new development, including the Cortex Community Center. And you're never too far from great music and entertainment.
So come and experience St. Louis.
We're back with City Corner. I'm Robin Boyce, and we were talking with Cameron Rose, Real STL News. Finish your story, Cameron, and you were saying that you all were covering a situation with a young lady who was lost and you found her, and what were some of those caveats that you all learned from that and how you got to where you are?
All right. I mean, the meat and potatoes of it, we found out when we reached out to mainstream media, we couldn't get their help. We found out when we reached out to St. Louis PD, Dotson, we couldn't get the help that we needed. So Amina Ali, we had a conversation. Amina Ali is a co-CEO, co-founder as well. And, you know, she created the name called Real STL News.
Okay.
All right. When she created the name, I say, yo, you know, me and some of my people, we were actually thinking about doing something similar. You know, we asked for her idea. Well, I asked for her ideas, and I gave her, you know, my ideas of what we had that we wanted to do. And meat and potatoes, we just felt like we needed our own everything, our own communications.
So you all just went on out there and just started shooting things and putting it out there, and folks really started hitting you because you all were putting information out there.
And that's pretty much what it is. And still to this day, we wanted to highlight, you know, educational pieces, just regular community people, just everybody that we felt mainstream might overlook just because they're not to a certain status or a certain level. We just wanted the everyday people. And we wanted to find out what was going on in our neighborhoods and our communities. So, yes, we just went out and we just did it. And luckily, people like you guys and just the community, period, took a liking to us and support us tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, I found out about you from some colleagues at work who were saying, hey, did you all see that Real STL News story? Did you see? I'm like, what are you talking about? So when I finally got tuned into what was going on, I said, now this is good. In fact, it reminded me a lot of the Evening World without all the mess. You know what I mean? You just put it out there plain and simple, and that's it. And people really wanted to hear that kind of information. How has journalism, as we can see here, changed for those, especially those veterans in the business? How has it changed? Anybody jump in there? Anita?
Well, I know it's changed dramatically from the time I started 37 years ago.
Right.
With respect to respect for journalists and an appreciation for journalists. We have so much coming at the working journalists that basically serves to discredit the work that we do. And unfortunately, some of that comes from our political leaders. I mean, who would have thought that that phrase, fake news, would really and truly reach people, and people would start to believe it and then start to use that terminology when addressing something they didn't like or they didn't agree with. It suddenly becomes fake news. So I think the political arena has sort of meshed itself and melded into what journalists are doing and what the public thinks of journalists. They can say whatever they want. Our role has always been to look for corroborating sources so that it's not just one person's word against another.
And tying in with what you're talking about with Dr. Buck, how do you teach students about the reality checks of this opinionated journalist over here who has this opinion that puts out all of this fake news, so to speak? and those who are real journalists like all of us on the screen who are just getting the facts and information out? What do you do with your students to help them understand that?
Well, part of it is I never tell my students that they are student journalists. They are, from the time they hit our department, professional journalists. And I set the bar at that level. I expect them to go and get facts and research. We're not basing our stories, our news, on opinion. We're basing it on what are the facts, who have you talked to, recognizing that there is not a single truth, but merely many truths that we have to tell. And then I give them lots of examples. And, you know, I want them to tell their stories. I want them to use the right places, but like I want them also to understand the role of the Black press.
Okay.
It's something, you know, all of our students have to take a diversity and communication course. And I'm one of the people who teaches it, but they have to understand that advocacy journalism is not the same as opinion journalism.
Right.
So I think that the Black press has really been strong always for advocating for the issues that are important to our community. I think that's exactly what real STL news is. Now, that is advocacy journalism. That's not the same as, oh, I got something I want to say, let me go publish this online.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that what happens. I mean, Vinton, while in the field and working with people like Cameron, when you see them out there, and when looking at a story that is heartbreaking, I mean, how did you pull all of that together, being, say, for example, in your community, and make sure that you're giving correct information out there, and not getting personally involved in it and becoming opinionated about it?
Yeah, Robin, that was the biggest thing. You know, I've gotten to know Cam for probably the last 3.5 years, because when I came here, I had never heard of Real STL. I'm like, what is that? That's just some old bloggers, you know.
Right.
And I think I was never told officially there was some kind of beef between Real STL or the media, but Cam and I have talked about this probably every time we bumped into each other in the field. I'm like, oh, you guys do good stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, they just had a different method. You know, I used to say, man, with the journalism school, did this, we learned ethics, we learned to attribute, we do this. Cam always broke it down. Hey, we formed because people were not covering the stuff, so we got it out there. So I have a huge respect level for them by their manner of doing it. You know, the folks who don't want to talk to 2, 5, and 4,
right?
They go tell it all to Real STL, tell it unfiltered. That's their niche. You know, for TV news, I wouldn't say we're the stodgy kind, but we're the ones police say, detectives say, investigators say, you know, so it was just always a way to keep focus. It was always to know there are 3 sides to every story. There were always facts. There were always opinion. Let the people tell the opinion. As a journalist, a bona fide journalist, I wanted to stick with the facts. 99% of the stuff I covered, I probably thought, nah, that didn't go right. But hey, St. Louis police telling us the 3 people were selling drugs. I knew they were probably selling something else, or, you know, but I can't say that. You know, we have licenses, we have things like that. So I always had the huge respect. And, you know, with Cam, we would always see each other. We would compare notes. And I'm like, oh, he got some, dang.
Right.
And he'd be like, yeah, Benny got the official stuff. They ain't tell us. So I think it's a teamwork in the field. It's also staying true to what we believe in. But I think from both sides of it, some people might call things into question. I think it comes down to integrity and to knowing and trusting your own content.
Trusting your own content and trusting people. Sylvester, we talked about that a little earlier before we went on the air, that people have to trust us as journalists.
Well, yeah, and before we get to that, I'd like to go back to your first question, was the evolution of news.
Right.
We would be remiss not to talk about the advent of the internet. That totally changed the game across all boards. By 1995 or 6, when Fox News created, when the Fox network was created, it was a bit of diabolical genius. What they found out was there's a whole demographic of people who feel they're not being heard. No matter how wacky their ideas or how crazy their ideas, they weren't being heard. So with Fox News, with a whole lot of other networks,
right,
they validated those people's opinions. So what happened was mainstream media realized that all of a sudden their money was disappearing. That, you know, that all the money that was going to newspapers in general, newspapers in the mid-90s was the dominant source of information.
Exactly.
You get all the information. But by the year 2000, newspapers are going out of business. They were closing up. They were offering severance pack. They was closed because because this new internet world had devastating effects on the whole media industry. Now everybody was chasing this rich demographic, trying to appease who these folks, trying to appease them and legitimizing what they were saying. The whole Barack Obama birther thing was a symbol of the power of this, what was really fake news. But because of the internet and because of all these other different internet properties, it shifted from real news to opinionated news.
Okay.
That's when you had the O'Reillys and you had the Sean Hannitys. You always had Rush Limbaugh, but then you had all these other people who were now shaping news and setting the pace for news. That atmosphere led to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not the major problem. He is a symptom of a much larger problem.
That was created. New media's kind of changed everything. New media, digital media.
But this whole idea of let's validate what the people are feeling. Let's legitimize every little crazy concern that they have because they are the ones who are paying our bills. They are buying the advertising. They're responding to the products. They're doing all this. So now we've legitimized this whole circus of lunacy. And it's leading us to a very strange, crazy place. Again, Donald Trump is the symptom. He is not the major problem.
Exactly.
You get rid of Trump, you still got that mindset out there.
I've got to have you all back on again because we've got so much to talk about with reference to this evolution. Are we going to be able to cover this situation that we're going through, COVID, this pandemic, the election is coming up, and really continue to help people really see some truths here? How can we as true journalists stick with that and not allow all of the noise around us to mess with it? Benton.
I was going to say, I think we all must do what we got in this business to do. Tell the facts, tell the story, stick with the truth. And what the gentleman just said, we have those distractions out there thanks to the internet, thanks to the cell phones, thanks to everything. You got, boom, Twitter popping off, Instagram, Facebook, you got all the distractions. Everybody wants a slice of this pie, but if we as journalists stick with what we know, stick to the truth, there should be no problem. That was the main reason I used to always tell people, I'm not biased. I don't think I've ever been biased in the story.
Right.
Yes, you have illicit bias, but you have to know how to leave that out. My place does not belong in the story. My opinion doesn't belong. So if we just tell the story, it's not hard to remain unbiased.
Just tell the news, give the information. I love all of you all. Thank you so much for coming on. I got to go. We ran out of time already, but I'm Robin Boyce for City Corner. Thank you to my guests for coming on. Stick with us, and we'll see you next time here on City Corner. Thank you. Wear your mask.